Can you put your wheelchair outside? Is what a host said to me when I was staying at an Airbnb in Colorado. It was my cousin's wedding and it was the spring of 2023. And so the last thing that we were expecting was for the Airbnb host to see us on the Ring camera and immediately have a concern with us. The Airbnb host started texting my dad as they had his number, and they said something along the lines of, "Hey, we weren't expecting a wheelchair, so could you put the wheelchair outside of the home?" My dad simply said that we are putting the wheelchair in the house, and if that they don't like it, they can take it up with Airbnb as we will file a discrimination report. That effectively ended the conversation. And it's situations like this is the reason why I tend to book my stays at chain hotels. Sure, the rooms are repetitive, boring, lack character, and the service lacks personality and uniqueness. But at the end of the day, these hotel chain rooms are reliable. They are generally the same layout throughout each location and they're dependable. Aspects that I care about the most, especially as a wheelchair user. And plus, I've never had someone at the front desk just tell me to leave my wheelchair behind because they weren't expecting someone in a wheelchair and were uncomfortable that I was using the wheelchair in their facilities. You can't just accept my credit card, but not my wheelchair. And yes, Airbnb does have a non-discrimination policy for people with disabilities. It specifically says that hosts may not, quote, prohibit or limit the use of mobility devices such as wheelchairs or walkers. Hi, I'm Kendall, your travel accessibility advisor who's been to over 30 different countries, and I've also stayed in my fair share of Airbnbs. So when Suzanne Edwards, the head lead of accessibility standards at Airbnb, reached out to me and asked if I wanted to go to the Airbnb roadshow that would be happening at the SoFi Stadium that went over the new accessibility features on the Airbnb website and accommodations for guests, I was ecstatic and I said yes. This is not a sponsored video, this is my honest opinions. And I am excited to share with you what I learned at this Airbnb 2026 roadshow. Airbnb is now the official alternative accommodation and experiences booking platform for the FIFA World Cup 2026. And for those of you who don't know, the FIFA World Cup is the most watched sporting event globally, with 5 billion people watching it in some capacity. And SoFi Stadium is set to host 8 soccer matches, or what the rest of the world calls football. SoFi Stadium alone can hold up to 70,000 people. The stadium itself is like a dome, with an opening in the middle. With this opening, you can see planes from the sky that are from LAX just soaring above you. And most importantly, because it was made in 2020, the floors are flat and smooth. From an aerial view, you can also see that the stadium is shaped like a pin that you would see on your electronic map on your phone. I'm actually in contact with a staff member at SoFi Stadium to organize a private and exclusive tour that highlights the accessibility features of SoFi Stadium. And so if you're interested in seeing that in the future, make sure to hit that red subscribe button down below, as it's your subscription that really helps me have opportunities like this in the first place. And because of your subscription, not only do I have these amazing experiences, but I can also continue to share my knowledge and experiences with you. So thank you so much to those of you who have already subscribed, and I hope to see you in that video. Then we had to take the elevator again to go to the first floor, And once we did, we grabbed some food and some water, and we had the opportunity to actually enjoy the view of SoFi Stadium from the Verizon suites. And let me just say, I am jealous of the lucky fellow that gets to sit and enjoy the FIFA World Cup from these seats, because you're literally on the same eyesight level as the players. You're on the same field of view, if you will, of the game. It's like you're actually on the field with the players playing the game alongside them. If that's you, I'm extremely jealous, but good for you. This roadshow event was massive. There was hundreds of super hosts and hosts from Airbnb that were there to help understand how they can elevate and scale up their business. And that made me happy, because that meant that all these guests would get to learn on how to treat people with disabilities when they book a stay at their Airbnb. I enjoyed the overall message of the accessibility presentation, that everyone deserves to travel. I mean, that's the ethos of this YouTube channel, essentially. And I also liked that it was acknowledged that people with disabilities are the largest minority on a global scale. I especially liked that Suzanne talked about this idea of universal design, the idea that if something is accessible for a person with a disability, it's also going to be accessible for people without disabilities. A person using a stroller can still benefit from a ramp. Someone who is elderly still might want there to be a shower chair in the bathroom. By accommodating for people with disabilities, you're not just catering to that group, but you're also providing a service for people outside of that group that can use that accommodation as well. Airbnb is projecting that more than 380,000 guests will use the platform during the World Cup. And according to Airbnb, those stays are expected to generate an estimated $3.6 billion in US currency. In the economic impact for all the host cities and communities that participate. And that is an economic impact that would be shared among the host city communities. That's a lot of money and people. And since people with disabilities make up 16% of the population, according to the World Health Organization, approximately 63,300 guests will have some sort of disability. So what would be the solution for these guests? Well, Airbnb now has an accessibility review system. If a property says that they have accessibility features, they need to prove that by taking photos of that specific accessibility feature and property, and then that gets uploaded and reviewed by the Airbnb team by an actual human who verifies that the accessibility feature does exist. That means people like Suzanne Edwards, who are wheelchair users themselves, are reviewing the photos and making sure that the information listed in the booking information is the correct information listed. Having these photos reviewed by someone, not just an AI or a computer, but a real person, especially someone who's in a wheelchair like me, makes me feel so validated. When I'm looking at a property, I look to see if the floors are flat and smooth or how wide the door frames are. And it's refreshing to hear that someone on the Airbnb accessibility team is looking at these photos and also seeing if the claims matched in the description match the photo as well. What makes the Airbnb accessibility features tab different from their competitors is that there's a total of 12 distinct accessibility categories that you can pick and choose in order of what you think is most important when you're booking a stay at an Airbnb. So guests can choose their preferences based on their needs. The way I see it, these 12 distinct categories are an acknowledgement that disability affects everyone differently. And what works for one person might not work for another person. But the point is that the individual themselves should be able to choose what works for them and what does not work for them. They are the ones who are disabled, and they know their disability better than everyone else. And I'm curious, what accessibility features are most important to you? Leave it down in the comments below. I'd love to read it. For me, step-free is important, but if there can only be one area of the house that is step-free, it would be the outside or entry point of the home. So a step-free entry point into the home is the most important for me. That being said, there is more demand than supply. When I searched for listings in the Los Angeles area and selected the step-free access option, 55 places appeared at the time of my search. But then I clicked on additional accessibility option, a step-free bathroom, and only 10 options appeared in all of Los Angeles County. And that was one of the better search results that I got from searching in high traffic, high population cities. And unfortunately, there's no guarantee that a guest will find a property that meets all of their needs. For now, it seems that homes in major cities offer the best chances of suitability for guests with disabilities. Currently, Airbnb is offering incentives. It seems that it's up to $1,160 USD for those who refer a property in the designated 16 cities across Canada, the US, and Mexico. Now, there is somewhat of an indirect incentive to increase listings in general or options on the Airbnb platform. What I'm looking at right now, the numbers do vary, but for those who refer a friend to the Airbnb platform, can earn up to $1,060 based on that referral and based on whether their friend actually becomes an Airbnb host. And then that host can have up to $750 if they meet all the terms and conditions of Airbnb that is posted by Airbnb. But if you are interested in learning more about the FIFA World Cup referral program, I will be leaving links to the official Airbnb website down in the description box below. I wonder whether Airbnb would offer some financial incentives when it comes to hosts considering renovating their home to be more accessible. Sure, things like a shower bench don't cost that much money in the long run, but things like a roll-in shower definitely do cost money. And they would present as a barrier for the upfront costs for hosts that are considering of making their homes more accessible. And so I wonder if Airbnb would be willing to offer some financial incentives for hosts that are considering making their property more accessible. And I am excited that the head of accessibility standards is a wheelchair user herself. Suzanne Edwards, in addition to having a lot of history in project management and marketing and just an overall comprehensive business background, she is of course a wheelchair user herself. And so in addition to providing practical business advice and support of what goes into managing that type of program, she herself is part of that demographic, which is perfect. If you want to target a service to a demographic, it's best to hear voices and opinions from people that are a part of that demographic. I am so happy that I know that I'm not the only one on the Airbnb website that looks to see that when a listing or home is shown as being step-free, that it's actually step-free. To know that there's people that are actually behind this new accessibility initiative and that are also reviewing photos of the properties and ensuring the accuracy of each Airbnb home listed, it makes me feel less alone in this process, and it also shows that Airbnb is genuinely expanding and wanting to evolve and learn. Now, I do want to mention that this program, the photo review process, is still very much in its early stages. And as a result, there's very few options when it comes to accessibility. As I mentioned, there's definitely still a gap in the market. As I mentioned, there's more demand than supply. And so with that, there comes more challenges in terms of booking in advance and the stress that comes with that. However, I am excited to see what Airbnb will do in the future, especially with the upcoming Los Angeles Olympics and Paralympics in 2028. I can't wait to see how they expand this program. It is not lost on me that Airbnb is doing more than they need to help expand and try to be more inclusive of the disabled consumer. Would it change the travel industry as a whole and not just Airbnb? And to that, I want to say a quick thank you to Suzanne Edwards and everyone that's on the accessibility team. Thank you so much for all of your hard work and dedication. It's because of people like you that initiatives like this keep on growing. I look forward to seeing what Airbnb has planned for the upcoming Los Angeles Olympic and Paralympic Games in 2028. That is it for this video. Hit that subscribe button. I hope to see you soon. But until next time, enjoy your journey, traveler.